Brian, did you have fun last week or what?
It was definitely something that we're gonna remember for the rest of our lives. That's for sure.
So I'd imagine, once you cross the wire in the Oaks on Friday, I'd imagine that Mystik Dan probably wasn't even in your thoughts until what, dinner that night, or when did you start thinking, oh, what if I win the other one on Saturday too?
Yeah, after we won the Oaks on Friday night, we did all the press conferences there in the media room, and then we went up to the mansion, and Mr. Karstanjian and Mike Ziegler and Bill Mudd and all them, they were all up there in the directors room, so we had a toast, and it was a lot of fun. It was really really enjoyable, and I told myself, I was like, wow, I guess this is what it feels like to win the Derby. But then to turn around on Saturday and going into Saturday, there was no nerves to it. There was just like this calming effect about the whole day, where we were just kind of, for some reason, we kind of believed that Mystik Dan was the horse that was going to get us there to the Derby's winner circle. And then after winning the Derby, there's nothing in the world that can prepare you for winning the Kentucky Derby. It was just a complete whirlwind of just joy and just all the excitement. And I'm just a jockey that rides horses. So to go into the Kentucky Derby Museum after the media conferences and have a room full of people toast you from the governor of Kentucky, it was definitely an outer body experience and just a lot of fun.
Well, I'm selfishly as a horse player and a handicapper, I need your help on something here. So I need you to coach me up a little bit. And look, this is a recognition to you and your abilities. I did not like Mystik Dan at all because I thought in the Southwest you rode him brilliantly on a gold rail, and that's what elevated him to his best race. Then he came back, wasn't on a gold rail, didn't run well, so I had no need for him in the Kentucky Derby. Tell me, teach me something. How do I prevent myself from making that mistake again?
Well, that was the thing too. Is that Arkansas Derby? It got a lot of people off of Mystic Dan because he was third in the Arkansas Derby. But if you go back and really watch the replay of him, we were going around the first turn that day, and we had a decent spot. We were a little further back than I wanted to be, but then the inside horse, Tyler Gaffleon, was on him. That horse all of a sudden bolted, and it's really hard to see on the pan shot. And when he bolted, he knocked Mystic Dan sideways, and we ended up getting pushed really really far back. He lost like 7 or 8 lengths by the time we turned on the backside. So we were just kind of out of contention and out of race flow. But the encouraging thing about him was he actually ran on and ran down the lane to be third. It was just one of those deals where we were just not in position to be able to win that day. So then when we went back into the Derby on Saturday with him drawing the 3 hole like he did, I knew he was tactical enough to put us in a spot that we needed to be. And the nice thing about him as well is he's tactical and he's got gears to him. He's one of those rare horses that can make 2 or 3 different moves down the backside and around the four turn and stuff like that to put you in a position to use his quick turn of foot when we needed to, which was when we hit that gap turn for home. That's what we needed.
Yeah, I mean, I watching that the NBC shot right when they come off the turn, and you slip through that little gap on the inside, and kind of brush the rail a little bit. I'd imagine that when you've closed your eyes throughout your career thinking about your Derby win, something tells me, based on the way that you ride, that you've envisioned running up the inside, not circling six wide.
Yeah, that was my game plan the whole time. I went back and watched lots and lots of replays of derbies and a couple of the trips. Like I've been quoted as saying, I watched Calvin ride my Super Saver when he won the Derby, and that was kind of the trip we envisioned. But then on the same time, I watched a few other derbies where guys tried that inside trip and they waited a little too long to try to get up through the hole, and you get stopped. So I knew that we needed to time that move. Once, if we had the horse under us, we needed to time that move just right to where we didn't have to worry about getting stopped.
And look, I mean, I think if we're looking at it and we're being honest, I truly believe that, I think that the last 20 Kentucky Derbies, to me, I think any rider probably could have been on Barbaro and won. No offense to Edgar Prado. I think anybody could have been on Big Brown and won. No offense to Kent DeSormo. But American Pharaoh, I feel the same way, maybe even Justify. But when it comes to horses like Mystic Dan, the decisions that you made, I would hope that there's a sense of pride that you made decisions that helped that horse win rather than the horse necessarily taking you there.
Yeah, that just goes back to if you want to become a really good if you want to become a good jockey, when you give horses trips like that and it works out, and you go about with a game plan like we did, and it works. That's the joy of being a jockey, is when you're able to make the difference. We can go on the best horse. It's pretty easy, but when you're at that level and that big of a stage, you want to give your horse every chance you can without compromising him, and that's what we were able to do on Saturday.
Now you got to tell me about this Canes commercial. You and I got to tell you, you looked the most natural. Tyler and Joel looked a little out of place. You look like you know your way around Canes a little bit.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Raising Cane's had us come out and do a little commercial, a little promotional deal, and I kind of prepared myself for that as well. I went back and I watched a few TikToks of quotes to say for Raising Cane's, and just we enjoyed it. This year, for some reason, I don't know what it was, but normally, come Derby time and stuff like that, the pressure will kind of get to you, and you don't want to do all the events and stuff like that because you're so focused on the race at hand. But for some reason, within the last 3 weeks, I don't know what it was. It was just like, man, I really want to enjoy this one. I want to have a lot of fun with it. So we did anything and everything people brought to us to do and participate in. We did it this year, and it was kind of a magical ending to it.
Somebody at Raising Canes needs a promotion for deciding to get the winner and the second place rider to do a promotion. That's some pretty damn good handicapping.
Yeah, they did a great job, and that's another thing. Angie Stevens, she handles a lot of our sponsorships and stuff like that with the jocks. So she did a great job of putting together a good team between Tyler, myself, and Joel, and we just had a lot of fun with it. And then we to go on and win the Derby like we did. It's a great promotion for Raising Canes, and it's a lot of fun. And then another thing we did on the Friday, which was great. I'm forever grateful for. We My wife Jamie and I, we went to the Down syndrome of Louisville Derby Gala a couple weeks before Derby, and it was just so much fun to watch those kids at their gala, dancing and having fun, that we decided to wear the Down syndrome of Louisville sponsorship logo on our pants for the Oaks, and we came together with the Down syndrome of Louisville, and we're selling raffle tickets now. We're going to go ahead and sign those pants, and whoever wins the raffle gets them when they have their golf tournament on June 3rd.
Oh, that's awesome. That's it's wonderful to be able to kind of share what I would imagine is likely the best weekend of your professional career with an opportunity like that to kind of feel like you're giving back a little bit. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. I got a video from one of the little girls there that goes to Down syndrome of Louisville, and it was the most heartwarming thing I've ever gotten in my life. Just to watch how excited she was, and for her to send us that video, it was truly meaningful and just a lot of joy. And that's what I told my wife. I said, doing this for these kids means way more to me than anything else we could have done.
Um, Brian, when it comes to you as a writer, well, we often say on the show that on the Fox show we often say that you are. I don't want to say underrated because that's not the right word. I would like to go with underappreciated more, where it just feels like that you don't get the recognition that I think you likely deserve for as good of a writer that you are.
Well, thanks. And that just goes back to we've stuck with our same guys over the years. I've been fortunate as a jockey. I ride here in Kentucky just about year round, in New Orleans in the wintertime. But it's just a testament to the guys we've ridden for, and the guys that have stayed loyal to me. For the last 20 years, I've kind of ridden for all the same clients over and over again, and they've been loyal to me. So I've always wanted to stay loyal to them. And when we get good horses, we're able to shine in those moments, and we're grateful for guys like Kenny McPeak and Ian Wilkes and Dallas Stewart and Rusty Arnold, and those guys. They've stuck with me throughout my pretty much my whole career. And then for Kenny to last, I've been riding first call for him for like the last 8 years now. It's an incredible it's an incredible joy to be able to win these kind of races with them.
Brian, tell me a little bit about your background, because I've just I know that you grew up in Louisiana. You're one of those Louisiana riders. Where's the Hernandez from? Because obviously there's something, you got something in there, Hernandez. But what's the background on your nationality?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. We're from southern Louisiana, and it goes back to my grandfather's side, long, long far back. I guess they came over from Spain, and it's just I don't know. Like I said, it's a long history of somewhere down there we have Spanish in us. It was just I'm not quite sure where.
I was always, in this game especially. Obviously, there's so many Spanish riders, or riders of Spanish descent, or whether it be Mexico or Puerto Rico or whatever. So forever I've always seen Hernandez, but then I know Louisiana, and so I wasn't sure where it all came from.
Yeah, and the last name gets me in trouble every once in a while because I'll go to the paddock and ride for new guys every once in a while, and they'll start speaking Spanish right away, and I'm like, okay. And sometimes you just got to go out there and do whatever and hope it works out.
Um, Tell me a little bit about. I heard you on Steve Bick, and you talked about having Kobe around recently, leading up to this. What was that experience like? Your brother Kobe.
Yeah, that was great. That's another thing we're grateful for Kenny for because he had Kobe come in and help us work in company with both Thorpedo Anna and Mystik Dan the last 2 or 3 works it was, and it just kind of it made it a lot easier because Kobe and I we've grown up together and we're brothers of course, so we understand each other, and it just made it to where everything was really really smooth in those last few works. We were able to just kind of get it done perfectly, and it worked out. And I think that was a big advantage to us. That was there's so much that goes into getting these horses ready for these days, and we were fortunate enough that we were able to use every advantage we could, and that was another one of them.
Well, the next few weeks, obviously, are going to probably be a lot of fun. You got the 2 weeks leading up to the Preakness. I know that Kenny's kind of waiting to the last minute to make a decision there, but I'd imagine if all systems go, Mystik Dan will go in the Preakness, and then I'd imagine 5 weeks from now, Thorpedo Anna will be up at Saratoga for the Belmont Festival and running in the Acorn. Let's talk about Mystik Dan first. I'm one of those people who believes that you did get an outstanding trip. And in most situations, the kind of trip that I would like to probably bet against moving forward, because it was such a damn good ride and damn good trip. But the one sneaky thing about Mystik Dan is he was close to a pace where all those other horses completely stopped. So I do think that there is something to Mystik Dan's run moving forward. Are you confident taking on the Baffert newcomers coming into the next couple weeks?
Yeah, of course. We have the Derby winner, so you're always confident in him. And like you said, he was the only. Steve Bick pointed this out to me the other morning when I did the show with him, and Mystik Dan was the only horse that was close to the pace at the wire. All the rest of them, they fell off to 16th, 17th, and 15th, or whatever it was. So for Mystik Dan to sustain the run like he did, and still hold off the deep, deep closers, you have to go into the next one thinking he's the best 3-year-old in the country right now.
And I'd imagine you feel even oddly, I would think you probably feel even more confident in Thorpedo Anna, just the fact that she's just so lightly raced as a 3. She's just going to only continue to get better and better, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's just crazy how good she is, and it's the last few times we worked her, you just couldn't believe how good she was doing, and the sky's the limit with her. For her to go as quick as she did, turning for home, and you turn for home, and you got the champion of last year, 2-year-old champion last year, looking like she's going to run her down, and she just kind of put her away, and to win the Oaks by 4, you have to be proud of her, and you have to be looking forward to her future. It looks extremely bright, that's for sure.
Well, I don't know if this is a sore subject, but what better time to ask you if it is a sore subject than a couple of days after you just won the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks? What happened with Rachel Alexandra? How did that mount get away from you?
That was just a timing deal. At that time I was a young rider, and I was just doing okay in Kentucky, and in the fall like that, the fairgrounds down here in New Orleans overlaps with Churchill the last few weeks. Well, I had made the decision to come to the fairgrounds early to start working horses and get a jump on the meet to try to get some more business and things rolling in our direction. And then once we did that, Calvin, Mr. Hal Wiggins had Calvin go out there and work her and let him ride her in the I think it's the Goldenrod, the last race there at Churchill in the fall. And then once he won the Goldenrod on her, I mean, he just picked up the mountain. You've seen how great she was. But, you know, I rode a lot for Mr. Hal throughout when he was training in his career, and I'm always forever grateful for everything he's done for me. It was just bad timing, and just it wasn't meant to be at that time. You can't look back at the past. You just got to keep going forward and hoping you find another one of those Rachels. But they're very hard to find.
Was she as special when you rode her, or did she kind of grow into what she was, or did she feel pretty special those times you had the opportunity to ride her?
No, we knew she was a special filly from day one. When she first came in, Mr. Hal's longtime assistant, Brett McCullen's his name. Him and were really, really good friends, and he was staying at my house at the time. And we just kept talking about, she got beat first time out. So the next time she goes to run and he's at the house, he's like, "There's no way, not even you can get this filly beat this time." Blah 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 blah. And she went out there and broke her maiden going 5.5 by like 8 in June. I'm sorry, June at Churchill in the spring. And then I came back and we knew what kind of special filly we had after that. It was just every time I rode her, I only got to ride her going one turn. So the first time she ran 2 turns was that day in the Goldenrod with Calvin, and she won by like 12. And then she went on to be the Rachel Alexandra, and I still believe her Woodward race is probably the greatest race I've ever seen in horse racing. For a 3-year-old filly to beat older boys in a Grade 1, you're never going to see that again.
Yeah, that whenever I'm having a bad day, I watch that race. If I need like a little pick me up, and look, if Rachel could have done that, I could figure this other thing out I got going on. I completely agree with you. So let's talk a little bit about, I think it's kind of exciting. Usually you're in Kentucky, but when you have 2 horses like this, I'd imagine that there's going to be a lot of traveling for you over the next 3 months. How does that sit with you? I mean, obviously you're excited to do it, but do you at this point of your career, do you enjoy kind of, basically leaving your normal business on a Saturday to go to Saratoga to ride 1 or 2, or to go to Monmouth to ride 1 or 2? How do you compare those 2 situations?
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. The last few years during the summertime, we've stayed at Ellis, and on the weekends, we've done traveling for stake mounts. So that's kind of the game plan again this year. It's just we're really looking forward to these horses. It's only May 5th, and they're both at the top of their division. So we have these 2, and then we have some other good ones over there at Kinney's, and it's an exciting time to be able to have these good 3-year-olds and then a couple good older horses. We still have some older horses that haven't come back yet this year, like Rattle and Roll. He'll be back later in the year. So we have a lot to look forward to, and just like you said, it'll be fun to ship around the country and let these horses show how good they are.
Let's talk a little bit about Fort Larned. I listened to that Steve Vick thing, and I heard you talk to Richie. I thought it was a great story. I wanted to make sure that our listeners got to hear as well about how Richie Migliore, you and Fort Larned had a little story when he ran up at Saratoga.
Yeah, I don't even think Mig ever even realized it, but he was doing the commentating at the time up there in New York, and that was only my second ride ever at Saratoga, and it was in the Grade 1 Whitney. So we were going to the gate, and we were pretty confident in Fort Larned just because on numbers wise he was the fastest horse in the race. But I had never won a Grade 1 before and never really participated in a race at Saratoga. So when Mig came over to the intercom system and he just kind of gave his explanation on how he would ride Fort Larned from the outside post, I was like, you know what? That's what we need to do. We need to leave there running and just let him cruise along, and it worked out perfectly. So it was I'm grateful that I was somewhat paying attention and used that to our advantage.
He was a pretty special horse. I mean, I know that a lot of horse players that I really respect, they loved Fort Larned going into that Breeders' Cup Classic, just on some of the races that he had throughout that year. Yeah, how does he kind of stack up to you in terms of the horses that you've ridden? I'd imagine one of the best you've ever sat on.
Oh yeah, by far one of the best I've ever sat on. I mean, when you get you get an older horse that was just naturally as fast as he was. You know, he was at that time right as he won the Whitney and the Classic and all that, he kept running consistent 110, 112 buyers, and you don't see horses do that very often. For him to be just so naturally fast, it was a magical deal just to be a part of it. You know, I've got to be forever grateful to the Whittams and Ian Wilkes, his trainer, just for sticking with me on a horse as good as Fort Larned at that time, because you know I had won some great stakes, but not really anything good. For them to stick with a little known jock at the time to go up there and win the Grade 1 Whitney, it was I'll always be appreciative of it. And then to jump up and win the Breeders' Cup Classic on my birthday, it was like I didn't think it could ever get any better. I didn't think life could ever get better up until I had my 3 kids. You know, that's the shining moment of our days. But it's Fort Larned is, like I said, I'll always be grateful for him and the Whittams, because they changed my life for sure. Because if not for them, I might be back here in Louisiana riding full time.
Talk about Louisiana, growing up in Louisiana, and what is it about Louisiana, and it just creates a different type of rider, right? I think I think of brave, I think of determined, I think of guys like Kendrick, and I think of Kent, and I think of you guys are just a different breed down there.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to we started at a very young age down here. You know, we started the racetrack. Most of us we all grew up on the racetrack, and just when you're going to the backside of Evangeline Downs at 5 and 6 years old, you're always observing. And then like in my case, I started galloping horses for Dale Angel when I was 11 years old on the farm, and I worked for him up until I left Louisiana at 18 to come to Kentucky. We still galloped for him and rode for him. And I think it's just the work ethic they teach us down here. You know, they teach us that we have to work hard and show up every day, and then always put the horse first. That's kind of the biggest thing, is you always want to put the horse first and do what's right by them. And then from there, you just kind of sit back and watch and listen and learn.
Well, Brian, I appreciate. I know you've got probably 900 things going on this week. I want you to enjoy it, and I don't want to wear you out, because I know you're gonna have a lot of microphones in your face over the next 5 weeks, I'd presume. And so we'll definitely catch up this summer. Got to get you on the golf cart when you come up to Saratoga.
That'd be great, JK. I mean, we're enjoying all the whole moments, all these interviews and everything else. We're grateful for them, and it's just been a lot of fun.
Brian, we wish you the best of luck, safe trips around there, and we'll definitely see you up at Saratoga. But go get that Preakness taken care of first.
We're working on it. Thanks again.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything.